Hello everybody, my name is Cole. I go by Trans Spirit. I consider myself a spiritual human being. I'm also transgender, F to M, although I'm not having any surgery done, so more non-binary and genderqueer. Anyway, I wanted to wish you all the 30th annual Happy National Coming Out Day. Now every day I believe that we should celebrate the fact that we've come out of these closets, so to say. The celebration is the fact that we're being true to ourselves and living in our truths, being who we are on the inside. With all this being said, I wanted to briefly give you in a nutshell my coming out story, which is choppy and in parts. So I'll just try to sum it up here. When I was 5 years old, I became hyper-focused with the fact that I wasn't a biological boy, but felt like I was supposed to be. I could go on for days about that and what that feels like, and that's a whole nother video series, right? But the story of coming out. So I was 5 years old, and I wanted to be in the boy line and wear the boy clothes, and I had little crushes on girls and all this and that, just like a little boy would, right? Because gender is in the brain. Our brains have gender. This is a study, this has been proven that with transgender people, our brains are oftentimes wired opposite of what our reproductive organs are. It happens. It's part of nature. It's not a very pleasant part of nature's, but that's what happened there. So flash forward many years. This is 5 years old. I kept it a secret all through childhood, which I could consider that a big mistake, but it was also a learning lesson, and I choose to live with no regrets. The only regrets that I have are hurting people along the way, not being honest with them and truthful out of fear of revealing my true self, fear of being ridiculed, made fun of, losing friends, family. Anyway, I digress. So, 5 years old, realization. 19 years old, I couldn't keep it in anymore. Okay, so I came out as bisexual, which was, it's strange because I knew I wasn't bisexual, but I knew I wasn't a lesbian. So for some reason I chose to say bisexual. I didn't know what transgender meant yet, but I knew that I wasn't a lesbian because I wasn't comfortable being a woman. And I'd ask around, and lots of women who felt comfortable being a woman and liking women, they are lesbians. I was not okay with being a female. Like to me it was a burden that I wasn't male. I desire to live in this heterosexual, cookie-cutter, binary, male-female, boy-girl relationship in life. I obsessed over basically the whole binary system with being male. That's something I've come to learn now in my 30s, that that was a mistake for me. Hyper-focusing on that binary destroyed me from the inside. And now in my 30s, focusing more on the fact that the whole binary system is a man-made system. Yes, there are separate reproductive organs. Yes, that's not made up. That's real, right? Okay, we can see it. The thing is, though, is that mainstream society has never accepted those gray areas. And I am an example of the gray area. Many of you are examples of the beautiful gray area. And what is that? Those are the people that don't fall into the categories of just male or just female, or, all these labels, they're ridiculous. They're ridiculous because they separate us. When we put lines of separation, we just cause all these problems. It's just the same as different races, religions, ethnicities, all those things. When we put separation between us, we're only hurting ourselves, right? So I am all about embracing the non-binary spectrum. Okay? Yes, I identify more so with being male, but I haven't changed my body because I decided to embrace the body that I was born with and live through that, and I feel the need to more so represent the genderqueer, the non-binary community of this planet, of this world, because there's so many of us that we respect the sex change. It's an awesome thing. I'm so happy that it exists, but there are some of us that just don't feel like it's right for us, and that's okay. That's okay. We show respect to others, but live true to yourself. And there are days where I question, can I really get through the next X amount of years without this sex change? And the good thing is it's always there. If I change my mind and I say, you know what, I do want to remove my breast, I do want to start injecting hormones, it's there for me. Me personally, I am very cautious of the chemicals that I put into my body, and I frankly have a giant fear of needles. So it's not something that is appealed to me much, but I highly respect the people that are taking that journey. It's a beautiful journey. It kind of gets me emotional because it chokes me up because you're just so brave. You're brave and you're living in your truth. National Coming Out Day. I think it's great that we have this. We can all share our stories. So I came out as bisexual when I was 19, but I knew that I wasn't. I just didn't know what the hell I really was. And I had a lot of self-discovery to do. I knew deep down that I felt like a male, but I was still too scared to say that. Yeah, I started revealing it to friends here and there, little by little, and when I was 20 years old, my life changed for the better. Although at the time I didn't know it because it was a very rocky ride to start. When I was 20 years old, a very good friend of mine, her mom's friend, okay, so a friend of a friend, a very wise woman, about 3 times my age, 2 times my age, I don't want to make her that old, she had lived a lot more life than me, and she'd been around the queer community, although she wasn't queer herself. And she understood it a lot more than I did at the time. And she said, please look up the word transgender. And I said, what? What's that? I had no idea what that was, okay? And this is about, 2004, I believe. I really need to pinpoint the years because I've made several videos and I might be off a year and getting it confused, but the years really don't matter, but it was 20 years old, I know that. When I looked up the word transgender, I immediately cried. Tears of, relief, tears of joy, tears of sadness, all crumbled into one. Because it was like somebody had finally unveiled the truth to me and made sense of the last 20 years. That's how I felt. Sorry, shit. It's not an easy subject. It comes with a lot of pain, but it also comes with a lot of beauty and the glory of being able to be yourself. Hiding who you are is very toxic on many levels, on obvious levels that we all can see, but also on spiritual levels. You start getting into the chakras, and if you're not speaking the truth, you're blocking your throat chakra, your solar plexus, who you are, and therefore the Kundalini energy, the whole spiritual awakening energy, it does not have the ability to flow through you when you're not living in your truth. So that's a huge reason that I wasn't seeing the same spiritual things that I am now. I remember having a few different things in my childhood that would have showed me that there was more of a psychic tap in, but like most people, there's a lot of brainwashing going on in this world. Whole nother video. Anyway, back to the National Coming Out Day. So 20 years old, found out what transgender meant, cried a bunch. It was great, terrifying. And so then that's when I knew that I was transgender. The weird thing with me though is I just knew in my gut that I wasn't supposed to have a sex change, which was also an inner battle because that was the answer to it at the time. In the early 2000s, at least in my experience, the answer was to start taking hormones. And most of the time, the protocol is it's 2 years of therapy. Like when I say therapy, I mean like head therapy. You going and speaking to a doctor about your feelings, and they want you to cross-dress and live about 2 years as the opposite gender that you were born to make sure that you're actually transgender. Okay. I went into a doctor that was specialized in being transgender. He is transgender, had a sex change. I spoke with him for about an hour, and I kid you not, he immediately was like, I'm gonna get you started on tea right now. I'm gonna write you a script. That was it. I consider myself lucky. A lot of people had to fight to get that. And I was just like, I don't want it. Yeah, it's true. That was me. I said, I don't want it. And he looked at me like I was crazy. And he said, I'm going to tell you about the 50% rule. I had already read about it, but I'm going to share it with you in case you don't know. The 50% rule in the trans community is that 50% of transgender people commit suicide before the age of 30 due to everything involved. Gender dysphoria, just depression, all that. Well, that made me mad because I knew in my higher self, that's your gut. Your higher self knows what's best for you. That's your higher self is like another word for like your gut, your intuition, okay? We know a lot of things that we haven't even tapped into. It's like, that's why you listen to your gut, because your gut knows, okay? Anyway, he didn't understand why I didn't want to have the sex change. And I told him, at the time, the biggest reason is that I sang, and I still am. I'm a professional singer today. And I said, I don't want to have the sex change because what if I changed my singing voice? It's the one thing that makes me happy in this world, other than my family. And he said, well, how do you know that you won't have a good singing voice as a male? And I said, well, I don't want to take that risk. And I still feel that way, in a way, because when I sing, I feel a connection to spirit, and it makes me feel good. And if I can make others feel good through that, then I feel like I'm having my soul fulfilled. So that was 20 years old. I walked out of his office and I never went back. He told me one thing that I didn't follow that I should have, and which again, no regrets, but he said, do not hyper-focus on all the masculine bullshit. And I did. I wanted to party like all the guys that I had been meeting from work and drink all the beer with them. The weird thing is my father's not like that. Like, my father's not flamboyant by any means, but he's he's a very balanced person on many levels, but when it comes to gender, like, my father has absolutely no shame in cleaning the house for my mom. You know, my father, I'm blessed to come from two very good people that never pushed gender on us like a lot of other families do. There were times where there was, some things, why don't you want to wear this dress, this and that, whatever. I get it though. I understand where they're coming from. Why does my daughter insist on being a boy? They didn't know what transgender meant, okay? But when we all learned what it meant, we all grew from it, and we began to understand. I took the masculine thing too far, and I got caught up in some really bad stuff. I pretty much drank and drugged for like 10 years, and I'm very blessed to be alive and here talking about it. And this is why I feel the need to talk about it. It is a blessing that I'm here. I've been sober from alcohol for 7 years, and it's really helped to clear up my mind, my pineal gland, my third eye, to see that the gender binary, the whole system, it's just been over-glorified. And the reason that us trans people and just people in general get so passionate about it and abolishing the boy, girl, is because that kind of system destroys a lot of people inside. The genderqueer people like myself that don't feel like male or female, well, I mean, of course, it just makes us feel like we're not validated, that we're not human. So when I see a non-gender bathroom or whatever, welcoming for anyone, I get so happy and excited because it's like somebody went out of the way to be like, let's build this for the people that just want, it's a great thing. So I came out as transgender when I was 20, and honestly, there's a lot more to say about that, and I'm working on a book currently, and I will definitely share more and more. I'm very excited to be in this new space, very blessed. I'm anticipating daily videos. I love making videos. I love talking with you guys and hearing your stories. This is beautiful. This is a way to connect that I'd only dreamed of in my 20s, back in the early 2000s, I wanted to be able to connect to other people in the LGBT community, Q community. Here we are. Welcome. This is beautiful, okay? So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to put them below or send them to me directly. I have an Instagram page, trans under scratch or what is that thing called? Trans Spirit. There's a little line in between. It's Trans Spirit. And then on Facebook, Trans Spirit. It's just Trans Spirit across the board. If you want to get a hold of me by email, it'd be transspiritindigo@gmail.com. And if anyone wants to talk more about that, indigo kids, star seeds, I would love to talk about it. It's one of my favorite subjects. So thank you again for watching. I very much appreciate your feedback, you stopping by. Thank you. Happy National Coming Out Day to all of you. And even to the people who haven't come out, to the people that have supported their friends and family coming out. Happy National Coming Out Day to you too. We're celebrating. Today is a celebration of being ourselves. I'll see you next time. Thank you. Much love.